It was a nightmare in Chicago for the Buffalo Bills. A brutal preseason blowout that ended 38-0, and honestly, it might be one of the worst performances the team has shown in recent memory, preseason or not. But before anyone starts smashing panic buttons, there's context that needs to be laid out. The Bears treated this like a dress rehearsal. The number 1 overall pick Caleb Williams made his debut. Ben Johnson was calling the shots offensively, and Chicago had their starters out there looking to make a statement on national television, in front of their home fans, under the lights of Sunday Night Football. Now, compare that to Buffalo's approach. For the Bills, their big preseason moment wasn't even this game. It was the joint practices held on Friday. That's when most of their core players got real reps, real intensity, real evaluation. What showed up in the game was a roster made up largely of depth guys fighting for a spot, and it showed in every phase of the contest. That doesn't excuse a blowout, of course, but it does explain part of it. Let's talk about the quarterbacks. Neither Mitch Trubisky nor Mike White looked particularly sharp. But if you're forced to choose between the two, Trubisky continues to look like the safer bet. He may not be anyone's idea of a dream backup, but he at least brings some mobility and experience to the table. Mike White, on the other hand, looks stiff under pressure. When he has time and rhythm, sure, he can operate, hit a 3-step drop, throw on time, maybe move the chains. But that's not the NFL. That's a drill. The moment protection breaks down, or he needs to move within the pocket, it all starts to fall apart. We saw it with the Jets. We saw it again here. Trubisky's athleticism allows him to survive those moments, even if he isn't thriving. And while the Bills' offense didn't score and didn't even convert a single third down, 0 for 8, it looked the least lifeless when Trubisky was on the field, especially when Frank Gore Jr. got going. Speaking of Frank Gore Jr., let's give him his due. On a night where almost nothing went right, Gore accounted for nearly half of the team's total yardage on just a dozen touches. 81 total yards on 12 opportunities is no small feat, especially considering the offense as a whole only gained 180. Gore ran with patience, vision, and toughness. His instincts as a runner and receiver looked polished, and he even appeared to hold up well in pass protection, which is crucial for any back hoping to make a roster. But of course, just as he was starting to become the silver lining of the night, he fumbled, killing the Bills' best drive of the game. It was a frustrating moment, because if there was one guy who had something going for him, it was Gore. But that turnover slammed the door shut on any hope for a feel-good moment in this disaster of a performance. Now, let's shift to wide receivers. Tyrell Shavers continues to impress. His ability to win vertically, not just with speed, but with clean releases and technical route running, makes him stand out in these games. He had a strong back shoulder catch, drew a pass interference call, and was just barely missed on what should have been another big gain. He's consistently getting himself into position to make plays, and that consistency matters. He's making it hard to ignore him when it comes to those final roster decisions. On the flip side, Elijah Moore's night was forgettable at best. 2 drops, questionable field awareness, and a total lack of execution on a key block read. Not what you want to see from a guy trying to carve out a role in this offense. He's clearly talented. The athleticism, the route running, the short area burst, all of that is real. But the mental side, the vision, the decisions within the structure of play, that's been shaky. He's not making the most of his chances, and with guys like Shakir, Coleman, and Palmer likely ahead of him on the depth chart, he needs to start contributing in other areas like special teams if he wants to be active on Sundays. Tight ends didn't offer much either. Zach Davidson had himself another rough outing. A face mask penalty, an offensive pass interference call that wiped out a deep ball, and just a general sense of sloppiness. That's 4 big mistakes in 2 games. Not great for a guy already on the fringe. You want these preseason games to be clean and efficient if you're a bubble player. Every rep matters. Davidson isn't helping his case. There wasn't much from Jackson Haw either. Hard to evaluate him on the live watch, but his presence wasn't felt. Quiet day from the entire tight end group, honestly. Just nothing inspiring there. Along the offensive line, we saw more shuffling. Players like Chase Lunt and Kendrick Green are being asked to play multiple positions, both guard and tackle. likely out of necessity with several depth linemen unavailable due to injury. And while that's a good chance for certain guys to show versatility, it's also a problem. Alec Anderson, Tylen Grable, and Cedric Van Pran-Granger are all part of this depth conversation, but they've barely been seen. That's valuable evaluation time that's disappearing fast, especially with Van Pran-Granger, who's been dealing with a calf issue since the start of camp. At what point do we start asking if this season is already lost for him? It's not a good sign when there's this much radio silence. Defensively, the story is just as bad. Defensive ends like Landon Jackson and Javon Solomon were quiet, and when they did make noise, it was for the wrong reasons. A roughing the passer call here, an offsides penalty there. When you're a young player trying to make a name for yourself, discipline matters just as much as production. These weren't disciplined performances. The lone bright spot was Michael Hoy, a guy who wouldn't normally be in the game but got reps due to his upcoming 6-game suspension. He came away with a sack, which, shockingly, might be the only sack the Bills have recorded this preseason. It's good to see him flash something, and hopefully that momentum carries over once he returns from suspension. At defensive tackle, the Bills were looking for anyone, to step up. Dwayne Carter showed some life on a would-be scoop and score that got called back. He also had a nice moment blowing up a screen pass. Zion Logue had one impressive run stop, but also some reps where he got driven off his spot. TJ Sanders was more or less invisible. Deon Walker had a flash, but it's hard to hang your hat on flashes when the entire front got mauled for over 500 yards of total offense. The Bears were averaging more than 6 yards per play. That starts up front. The defensive line got bullied. Full stop. So yeah, 38-0. An absolute thrashing. The worst preseason loss for the franchise in over 50 years. No touchdowns. No third down conversions. Barely any life at all. But while the scoreboard stings, the bigger story is what this game reveals about the depth, or lack of it, across several key positions. We're still reeling from the embarrassment of that 38-0 beatdown in Chicago. But now it's time to really dig into what that game told us about the deeper layers of this Buffalo Bills roster. If part one was about the obvious pain points, the quarterbacks, the ineffective offense, and the patchy defensive showing, this second half is about looking beneath the surface, where roster battles are playing out, players are either rising or falling, and where the coaching staff will have to make some tough decisions very soon. Let's start where it hurts the most, the pass rush. Through 2 preseason games, the Bills have generated just 1 sack. One. And that came courtesy of Michael Hoy, who won't even be on the field for the first 6 games of the regular season due to suspension. That's not just concerning. It's a full-blown red flag. Pass rush is supposed to be one of those identity pieces for this defense. It's part of how they've built the unit under Sean McDermott. But in these exhibition games, it's been completely absent. Landon Jackson, Javon Solomon, Shane Ray, none of them have made a consistent impact, and that's putting it lightly. The absence of that front-end pressure trickles down to every other level of the defense. Corners are left exposed, safeties are asked to do more than they're capable of, and opposing quarterbacks are getting way too comfortable. Even worse, these are the games where these guys are supposed to shine. They're not going up against top-tier offensive linemen. They're seeing backups, practice squad-caliber players. And still, nothing. That tells you one of 2 things. Either the coaching staff is asking these guys to play a conservative game plan in preseason, which is always possible, or these edge rushers simply aren't NFL ready. And neither explanation is all that comforting. One is temporary. The other is a depth problem that could haunt this team deep into the regular season. On the interior defensive line, there's a similar lack of dominance. Dwayne Carter flashed, but only in short bursts. Zion Logue showed effort and had 1 or 2 plays where he held his ground, but then disappeared for long stretches. TJ Sanders was mostly invisible, and Deon Walker didn't build on his progress from the previous game. That's frustrating, especially considering the expectations around some of these young defensive tackles. This was supposed to be a chance for someone to grab a spot and run with it. But nobody did. And when a team gives up over 500 yards of offense in a game where most starters aren't even playing, the blame starts at the line of scrimmage. If you're looking for bright spots, you have to squint. Jordan Hancock is one of them. Playing both safety and slot corner, He looked comfortable and confident, until he got banged up, of course. His blitz timing, tackling, and overall physicality stood out in a game otherwise filled with missed assignments and half-effort tackles. But how serious is the shoulder injury? He said he felt fine, but we've heard that before. If Hancock is out for any stretch, the depth in the secondary becomes even more fragile. At linebacker, the lack of flexibility is becoming a concern. Joe Andre is a decent backup for Terrell Bernard if you're asking him to attack downhill and play the run, but in coverage, he's a liability. Dorian Williams is an excellent athlete and a high-energy guy, but he's not built to play Bernard's role either. So now you've got two backups who only fit one of the starting spots each. That's not ideal. And it's why someone like Shaq Thompson is more than just a fantasy. He's the kind of veteran presence that can fill multiple roles and stabilize the room. If he's healthy and in shape, Buffalo should be making that call. Because once again, the Bears exposed the Bills with simple route concepts, motion, and mismatches. And these backups couldn't adapt. Then there's the cornerback position, where we've got more questions than answers. Dane Jackson struggled, no doubt. His inability to carry routes downfield showed up again. He doesn't have the recovery speed to make up for mistakes. And when you're running a zone-heavy defense that requires communication and anticipation, one guy being a step late ruins the whole structure. But to be fair, he wasn't the only one getting cooked. The Bills gave up over 350 yards through the air. There were busts in zone. Man coverage got shredded. There were communication issues all over the place. It looked like a group that hadn't played together. And that's because they really haven't. Preseason rotations and injury fill-ins have made it impossible to develop any rhythm in the secondary. Cole Bishop was supposed to be a tone setter. The rookie safety with all the physical tools and a reputation as a heady player from college. But he's barely been on the field, and when he has, it hasn't been good. Missed tackles, coverage busts, poor angles. The missed reps have clearly slowed his development, and that's going to make it hard for the coaching staff to trust him early in the season. Taylor Rapp didn't play in this game, and that absence made things worse. Rapp is supposed to be the glue guy back there, the one with enough experience and versatility to cover up mistakes. Without him, you saw what the safety room really looks like. Damar Hamlin is doing his best, but fans need to temper expectations. He's not a starting caliber player, and he never was supposed to be. He's a depth piece, a special teamer, a guy you hope doesn't have to play 80 snaps in a meaningful game. The fact that Buffalo hasn't found a more reliable option to challenge that role is a front office miss. Before we dive back in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest Buffalo Bills updates straight to your screen. And hey, don't hold back. Let us know your thoughts on today's news down in the comments. The Buffalo Bills have sent shockwaves throughout the American football landscape, igniting a whirlwind of rumors and speculation across sports media and fan communities nationwide. Reports emerging late last night suggest that the Bills have secured a deal with the Mexican offensive lineman Isaac ALARCÓN, previously of the San Francisco 49ers, in what many insiders are calling one of the most unexpected and intriguing moves of the offseason. The news has rapidly spread through social media, with fans, analysts, and former players dissecting the implications of this signing, and debates erupting over how ALARCÓN's arrival could reshape Buffalo's offensive line. Sources close to the team indicate that negotiations were intense, with multiple franchises reportedly pursuing the 27-year-old lineman, making the Bills' acquisition even more surprising given their existing roster depth. This move also highlights a growing trend in the NFL, where teams are increasingly scouting and signing international talent to gain competitive advantages, and ALARCÓN's arrival might be seen as a milestone for Mexican representation in the league. Experts are already speculating on how the Bills' offensive strategies could evolve, considering ALARCÓN's agility, strength, and technical proficiency, which were widely praised during his tenure with the 49ers. The rumor mill suggests that coaching staff members were particularly impressed by his ability to adapt to complex blocking schemes, which could prove pivotal in high-stakes matchups. Fans are buzzing with speculation about the jersey number ALARCÓN might choose and how quickly he will assimilate into the Buffalo culture, generating a wave of excitement that has transformed the off-season chatter into near frenzy. Analysts are scrutinizing past game footage, comparing him to other linemen in the league, and predicting how his presence could impact both offensive line cohesion and quarterback protection schemes. The news has prompted a surge of coverage from both local and national media outlets, further fueling the narrative of a blockbuster signing that might alter the trajectory of the team's upcoming season. Amidst the clamor, insiders hint that more surprises could be on the horizon, suggesting that the Bills are not merely acquiring a single talent, but potentially signaling a broader strategy to shake up the NFL landscape, making Isaac ALARCÓN's rumored arrival a talking point that transcends ordinary player transfers. Speculation surrounding the potential impact of Isaac ALARCÓN joining the Bills has reached fever pitch, with pundits and fans alike debating how this signing could redefine team dynamics and influence league perceptions of international talent. While ALARCÓN's achievements with the 49ers were notable, many commentators are intrigued by how his skill set could be leveraged in Buffalo's system, particularly given the team's offensive philosophy and recent struggles with pass protection consistency. Rumors suggest that team insiders were captivated by ALARCÓN's versatility, as he has demonstrated proficiency in multiple line positions and has shown the capacity to mentor younger players, a trait highly valued by franchises seeking both performance and leadership. Conversations in sports circles are rife with conjecture about his conditioning regimen, his approach to high-pressure situations, and how quickly he can adapt to new coaching schemes, given the differences between the 49ers' methodologies and the Bills' strategic priorities. Fan forums and social media platforms are awash with hypothetical lineups, mock drafts, and statistical projections, each attempting to quantify the potential contributions of a player whose presence is already commanding headline attention. The rumor mill has also spotlighted ALARCÓN's cultural influence, with analysts noting that his signing could further strengthen NFL engagement in Latin America, expanding the league's fan base while highlighting Buffalo as a hub of international football talent. Some insiders speculate that this move is part of a calculated effort by the Bills to diversify their roster and attract attention not just on the field, but in marketing and outreach initiatives, potentially setting the stage for unprecedented cross-border promotional campaigns. Observers have even started weighing potential ripple effects on free agency and draft strategy, predicting that ALARCÓN's performance might alter team priorities in upcoming seasons. Meanwhile, sports journalists have begun crafting narratives about ALARCÓN's journey from Mexico to the NFL, framing it as a tale of perseverance, talent, and opportunity, while unofficial sources hint that the player himself has been excited about the prospect of bringing his expertise to Buffalo. All of this speculation contributes to a palpable sense of anticipation, as fans eagerly await confirmation of what could be one of the most significant and buzzworthy off-season developments in recent NFL history, blending intrigue, rumor, and genuine excitement in a story that continues to evolve minute by minute. As the news of Isaac ALARCÓN's rumored move to the Bills spreads, discussions among coaches, analysts, and insiders have intensified, with each stakeholder dissecting how this acquisition could impact team chemistry, play calling, and even locker room dynamics. Speculation suggests that ALARCÓN's signing is more than a tactical enhancement. It might also represent a symbolic shift, signaling the franchise's willingness to take bold, unconventional steps to strengthen their lineup. Social media chatter has been relentless, with fans debating the potential for ALARCÓN to become a foundational pillar of the offensive line, comparing his performance metrics to other linemen and envisioning matchups against top defensive opponents. Insider whispers claim that the coaching staff has been quietly strategizing how to integrate him into offensive schemes, emphasizing not just his physical capabilities, but also his leadership qualities and ability to communicate effectively across the line. Sports talk shows are abuzz with analysts speculating about how ALARCÓN's presence might influence quarterback protection strategies, run block efficiency, and overall offensive fluidity, fueling debates about whether this move could be a game-changer in divisional matchups. Enthusiasts of football analytics are dissecting his past performance data, scrutinizing snap counts, blocking success rates, and pressure statistics to predict the measurable impact of his addition, with some arguing that the Bills might be positioned for a historic season if he adapts seamlessly. That's a wrap for now. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay on top of all things Buffalo Bills, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what you think in the comments. See you in the next update.